From Father Time finally catching up to LeBron, to the King already achieving everything an NBA player could ever dream of. These are the reasons why LeBron James should retire.
I don't know. I got a lot to think about, to be honest. And
As sad as it sounds, LeBron's age is getting the better of him. Don't get me wrong, the four-time champ can still do a lot of things for his team on both ends of the floor, but it's clear as day that James is not the same beast he was back in his Miami days. Though you can't really blame him for that, because he's been at it for 20 years. Plus, the player has been under immense pressure ever since he entered the league at the young age of 18. As time went on, the pressure just kept mounting. He's had to carry the Lakers on his back year after year while facing an insane amount of criticism. Even when he led his team past the finish line, that'd take a massive toll on anyone. And when you couple that with his age, as well as how exhausting the past 20 years have been for the King, you can't help but understand why he's not the same athlete he once was. Even though it didn't seem like age was catching up to him in his final stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I can't say the same about his time with the Lakers. LeBron has always been known as one of the most durable athletes of all time. He didn't get injured even once during his first 8 years in the league, and only missed 71 games between 2003 and 2018. The story hasn't been the same since 2019 though, as his time in LA has been plagued with injuries. That alone is a major reason why King James needs to retire sooner rather than later, or else he might suffer a terrible injury that forces him to hang up his boots. What's more, the four-time champ has so many lowlights with the Lakers, and each of them serves as a reminder that he's just a shell of his former self. Just look at his play against the Raptors back in March 2022 when he airballed an easy layup. And of course, I can't forget about him airballing a logo 3 against the Trailblazers in October 2022. But that was nothing compared to what happened against the Denver Nuggets in the 2023 Western Conference Finals. The four-time MVP had an opportunity to cash in on an open dunk, and if this had happened during his Miami days, he'd have slammed that ball home with authority. But instead, he lost control and smoked the fast break dunk. Everyone went wild because they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The guy who annihilated Jason Terry in 2011 with one of the meanest posters ever couldn't even finish a basic dunk attempt. But it's not just his skill level that's declined. After all, he gets tired way faster now as well. Up until 2018, LeBron could easily play all 48 minutes when his team needed him to, and managed to give 100% the entire time, except for Game 4 against the Nuggets in the 2023 playoffs, which doesn't happen very often now. In some games, his fatigue is on full display. For example, when the Dallas Mavericks faced off against LA in March 2022, King James drew the charge and went straight to the floor. But the contact was too much for him, so he had to make his way to the bench to get some rest. If you want a more recent example, then look no further than Game 3 of the 2023 Western Conference semifinals. When the LeBron-led Lakers went on that crazy third-quarter run against the Warriors, the King clearly couldn't keep up with the pace. When Dennis Schroeder was fouled, James went straight to the bench to catch a quick breather. Again, it's something that never happened before his Lakers stint. But if you still think I'm exaggerating, how about hearing it from King James himself? After defeating the Warriors in Game 4 of the 2023 Western Conference Semis, James said in his post-game interview that he was tired as hell and needed some rest. While that's understandable, LeBron has never said anything like that in the past. So from a physical standpoint, it only makes sense for the four-time champ to retire from the sport. Even though he'll be missed, this could have a positive impact on the league. How so? Well, it'll allow the younger stars of the NBA to shine more. The King's been running the league for ages now, but let's be real, he needs to retire so that the association doesn't just revolve around him anymore. It's time for the NBA to crown a new face of the league, and that can only happen if LeBron walks away from the sport. I mean, the NBA's full of talented athletes who are in the middle of their prime, including names like Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Trae Young, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jaylen Brown, among others. If James is finally out of the picture, all of them are going to get far more attention from the media. After all, there are times when LeBron has a terrible game, yet he still gets more coverage than those who played well. Not to mention, the best players always want to team up with the 19-time All-Star. But if he's not in the mix, they'll start looking towards guys like JT, Trae, Giannis, and Luka instead. The future is now, and it's the perfect time for LeBron to pass the torch to one of the younger stars of the association. That being said, everyone's unsure about whether he'll even retire or not. So that begs the question, what are the chances of LeBron hanging up his boots? Before the 2023 season, everyone was sure that James would play till he's 40 at the very least. But it doesn't seem like that'll happen anymore. After the Lakers got swept by Denver in the 2023 playoffs, James told reporters, "Just with me personally going forward with the game of basketball, I got a lot to think about." Fans went wild because nobody thought James would even think of retiring before hitting 40. But here we are. Though at the same time, just because James said all of that doesn't mean he's actually going to retire. He made those comments immediately after being swept by the Jokic-led Nuggets, so he was obviously upset at how his 2023 campaign ended. LeBron loves basketball way too much to give up on his quest for another shiny ring. But at the same time, just because he loves the game doesn't mean he should run it back next year. Plus, even if the four-time champ doesn't want to distance himself from the NBA entirely, he has other options available. In fact, he can either become a coach or a GM. LeBron's IQ is on another level, and if he coaches any team, they'll automatically become much better by working under him. What's more, he might even be able to coach Bronny. As for being a GM, you can say that he's already been one his entire career. No matter what the 19-time All-Star says, everyone knows that he's the one who always calls the shots for his teams, not the front office. Plus, as you all know, Michael Jordan's one of the worst GMs in NBA history. But if the king can do a better job than him, he'll have bragging rights over his airness. Even otherwise, James has bigger and better things to do, and that includes giving back to society. The four-time MVP is one of the most generous athletes in the world, and that's been on full display for years now. The best example is his I Promise initiative, which aims to provide education to children in Akron, Ohio. If he retires, he'll be able to focus on these types of projects way more. And let's face it, impacting society for the better like this is much better than racking up achievements. LeBron's got to prioritize what's most important in the grand scheme of things and hang up his boots. As it is, he's already accomplished so much, so what's the point of playing any longer? King James is the definition of a household name. And whether you love him or hate him, you know he's one of the greatest athletes of all time. This man has 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs, 4 league MVPs, and 19 All-Star appearances. But that's not all, because he also has 19 All-NBA team selections, as well as 6 All-NBA defensive team selections. Oh, and he's also the leading point scorer in both the regular season and the playoffs. He's basically done it all and proven to the NBA world that his longevity is unmatched. While he may not be the GOAT to some people, he definitely is to so many others. And it's safe to say that he and MJ are the 2 greatest players in the history of the sport. When you've achieved that type of status, it only makes sense to retire and move on to other things in life. So from the king already achieving everything an NBA player could ever dream of, to Father Time finally catching up to LeBron. Those were the reasons why LeBron should retire.